so we're recording for people that can't make it in time. But I guess posture stretches in and of itself is kind of the name, but why did you guys want to make sure that you could come tonight, and or what are you really looking to get out of tonight's workshop?
Maybe getting insight on what I can do to help.
Hey, come on. It's okay.
Great. Absolutely. Okay. Great. Yeah. Amber?
I've got her posture here, so
Yeah.
I'm looking for something that I can kind of stick to and hopefully use ongoing. Have better posture.
Great. Yeah. So can talk.
All very important.
Great, great, good. Well, I appreciate your interaction because I will say that all of the workshops that I put on, it makes it 100 times better on you if you interact with me, because I will sit here in silence until somebody answers me. So usually if it's a rhetorical question, I will let you know it's rhetorical, but otherwise I'm looking for an engagement. It's more fun that way. A lot of these workshops are engaging in the sense that tonight we will actually be doing some of these posture stretches so that way I can observe how you're doing them, give you some tips on it, and let you know any other advice on certain areas that you might be looking for as well. Okay, but before we dive into that, I'm going to hand it over to Jessie, who is one of our wellness patients. So she's going to share her testimony on what brought her to chiropractic, why she loves chiropractic, and how it's really changed her life. Her and her daughter are under care, so I won't give too much away. I'll let her share that story with you. But Jessie, you can come on up.
Hi, so I started going to a chiropractor when me and my husband were living in Okinawa, Japan. It was like 3 years after I had been in a four-wheeling accident with him where he fell backwards into me and my skull was cracked and I ended up with a slight curvature in the top of my spine. So I had a lot of pain after about 3 years of just kind of trying to live through it. And a friend of mine in Okinawa said, oh, why don't you try my chiropractor? He's great. And he actually was an American who just ended up practicing there. So he spoke perfect English, which was great. And anyway, he was just really informative on the human body, and he had practitioners there that also performed like Seitai massage and other things, either before or after, depending on what his recommendation was, around your adjustments. And I found that, not just getting adjusted, but doing other things to make sure my muscles were happy in the interim was really key. But I was really missing a puzzle piece. So after like a couple of years of just doing that, I moved to San Diego and I started practicing yoga and found that when I was going to my chiropractor there, after I would go to my yoga class and then I would go get adjusted, I was like, he'd be like, oh, you're so limber today. You're so much easier to just, manipulate and stuff. And I noticed it too. So I kept, really doing that. And then also the component of massage crept in there. So I always preach to my friends and my family. Yoga, chiropractic, and massage, those three things keep me at 40. Skateboarding, I play softball most all year round. I do yoga 3 to 4 times a week. I paddleboard, I hike. I don't feel like my body is breaking down like it did in its 20s. And, I was an athlete my whole life. I played soccer and softball and basketball growing up, and I had a lot of injuries that I did not properly take care of. So I also found that just getting regular spinal manipulation started to help some of those injuries that I thought were never going to get better. So when I moved here in 2020, not a lot of practices were seeing anybody. But I found out about Dr. Carly because she was in my neighborhood, and I found out about Wave of Life, and I found out they were doing consultations. So I came here, and this is the first practice that ever presented it to me in the way of like regular maintenance care is really key versus just when you're in pain, now come see me, which is really, I feel like the philosophy of a lot of chiropractors out there, you know, like, oh, your back hurts, now come see me, versus a Wave of Life, you know, with the re-exams and all of the different muscle stress tests that they're doing on you over time. They're really like pinpointing like what's happening in your body and getting to like the root cause versus, you know, just putting a Band-Aid on your problem. You're really able to get deep into your muscle tissue and into your body and things after you're doing this for a while. So I started going, I guess, in 2009. So, and before that, I felt like I was maybe 20 times older than I was. I kept complaining, you know, I had carpal tunnel too. I didn't mention that. I worked at a desk for a long time. I'm a graphic designer as well as a yoga teacher. So, but after years of, you know, clicking a mouse and drawing with that, I was just had debilitating pain from my carpal tunnel. So I had the release surgery done in San Diego, but that was before I found yoga and chiropractic. And, you know, I feel like my three combination of just, again, helping my body move better, feel better, live better, because you know, I have elderly parents now, and, you know, I'm watching them go through back surgeries and knee surgeries and hip replacements, and, you know, I'm just like, I'm kind of blown away. But I also look at how they treated their bodies growing up and how they really didn't pay attention to their bodies when they were in pain. They just worked through it and didn't do the things that they needed to do to keep up with their spinal maintenance. So they found themselves breaking down. And so I turned 40 May 29th of this year. And I just like want to live another 50, 60 more plus. I don't know. I'm shooting for, like, my great grandma lived to be 108, and I always say I'm shooting for like way over that. So if I make it anywhere near that, I'll be good. But I feel like these women here really help me just feel better in my body and move better. So I'm happy that I found this practice, because I don't think it's just your run-of-the-mill chiropractor. I've been to a lot of different ones all over the world, and their approach is just different, and you can see the results. I mean, in my last re-exam, I found that my head weighs like 15 pounds less than when I started here. And I said that I wanted to feel lighter, you know, like I wanted my head to feel lighter when I started. I didn't want to feel like I had all this, the weight of the world on my shoulders. So mission accomplished. And hopefully I can get to, you know, I think, what is it, like your head's supposed to weigh like 8 pounds or something. So maybe I can get to 8, but I'm chilling around 14. I think it's pretty good. So anyway, that's really all I have to say. Thank you. And just, yeah, take care of your bodies, love yourself. That's important.
Great. Well, thank you for that, Jessie. It is like she said, it's a lifestyle change when you think about chiropractic, and that's why we are such an educational facility and why you're choosing to spend your Tuesday evening with us learning about the tools to make this a change so that you can do it at home, not just when you're here for the 10 minutes out of your day, because there's another 23 hours and 50 minutes that you need to account for that I can't be holding your hands to make sure that you're not getting these subluxations. And it is also a combination of things. So it's a lifestyle that includes things like yoga and massage and eating right and exercising and drinking water. So all of those things, which are why we have specific classes that align with that. And one of them is making sure that you're doing your stretches and exercises for this posture that allows you to have a head weight that is drastically different from when you might have started, that allows it to be in the correct position, right? So she said about 8 pounds, sometimes it's closer to 12 or 14. It's all dependent on your height and weight. But ideally you don't want any additional weight to your head. But before, and that kind of gets a little bit ahead of what we're talking about. But this is a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer this one. But I want you to take a look at this picture here and kind of grade yourself, especially because all of you here are patients, so you have seen your posture pictures. So you should be able to kind of be able to know which of these postures you might fall into, as opposed to the correct posture, which is the light blue one on the far left. Okay. So I'm not going to make anybody tell me what they think they are. But what I will ask is, does anybody remember how much percentage of your energy is used for your posture? Anybody have any guesses of how much?
30?
30?
She
said 80.
Okay.
40.
80, you said 80?
40.
Okay, you said 40?
Yeah.
Great, Clay, it's higher. 25, close. Yep, 90. Yeah. So 90% of our energy is used for posture. So one other rhetorical question, how efficiently are you using your energy? So based off of what you just graded yourself on with that picture, if anybody thought that they were anywhere different from the correct posture, then that means we're not efficiently using our energy. Okay. Has anybody ever heard of upper cross syndrome? No. Fine. Okay, so see how there's this cross on the upper part of your body? What happens here that causes this forward head carriage, again, adding extra weight to your head, is this mechanism right here, where we have weak, deep neck flexors. So flexion is when you bring your chin down to your chest, extension is bringing it up. So the muscles that work to bring your head forward are weak. So that's why you're falling forward, because they're not strengthened in the right position. Make sense? Tight in your pecs, okay? So all of that tension that's pulling those shoulders. And then we're weak in our lower traps and what's known as your serratus anterior, which is along the side of your body, so through those ribs. And then really tight in your upper traps and neck, which is where most people already can tell that their posture is forward, because we all have that tension that we tend to hold when we have stress, and unfortunately a lot of the world is stressed. Okay, does this make sense? How that happens, where we drag ourselves forward. This is the most common type of posture that we see. When people see that we're backwards, that means we're getting too much of a curve. When this is happening, we're losing the natural curve that we want to see in our neck, which should be a C shape. Okay. What do you think results when we have this? What kind of symptoms could happen? Headaches? Yep. Number one. Anything else? Overall pain in general, like neck pain, jaw pain can happen. So a lot of people don't realize that I can actually adjust your jaw. So your jaw is a joint, temporal mandibular joint. So those can be adjusted. So it can cause tension here, because you a lot of times will clench in this type of sensation as well. Upper back pain. Yep.
I met a man who was in his 20s who was a surgeon. And his neck broke. Because he had like tense neck.
Yeah, so that unfortunately is what this is called nowadays, is text neck, because everybody's texting on their phone. So that was kind of my next question, is what can cause this type of posture? So besides texting, what else can cause that posture? Exactly, yep. So unfortunately, 2020, like was mentioned, everything went to the home offices and everybody's sitting down at their computer like this, right? So that's another thing. And if we're thinking of younger generations, school is another one as well. So whether they're sitting at their desk or they're at their computer, a lot of kids have laptops nowadays or tablets and things. So pretty much everything is forward. Moms, parents, dads, baby, right? So pretty much everything for every generation has some sort of forward head carriage that's happening. So we need to make sure that we're counterbalancing that, because I can't necessarily make you quit your job or not hold your child or not go to school, right? Those are things that you can't necessarily avoid. So those are those stressors that we talk about that are part of your everyday life. Can't put a bubble around you to stop that from happening, but I can make sure that you're having the tools and resources so that you're better able to adapt to those without having a negative impact on your body, okay? So the question is, how do we correct this or make less crap?
Does ergonomics help avoid that?
It does. Yep. So things would be holding your phone up here with desk ergonomics and making sure everything is 90-90. So your eyes are at the computer screen level. You're not looking down or up or to the side, those types of situations. So there's definitely ways ergonomically that we can affect that or help that. And then also adding in these tools so that we can start to strengthen the muscles that are weak and stretch or loosen the ones that are tight, right? So this is where we're gonna have some fun and go ahead and work on some of these stretches. So the first one, before we get onto the floor, we'll do the easy one of the head retractions first. So while you're sitting, what you're gonna do is put your fingers on your chin and go to tuck your chin in. Anybody feel like that feels super weird? Well, that is your normal posture. That's what should be normal, at least, versus the common of this. Okay, so when you push it back, your ear should be in line with your shoulder, right? So if you have somebody sitting next to you, go ahead and sit in your normal posture, take that pressure and push your chin back so that your ear is in line with your shoulder, right? Gives you this double chin type of sensation, right? Or like a turkey or a chicken. That's the chicken exercise. But as awkward as it is, that's what's going to strengthen those neck flexors that we talked about that are weak, okay? Easiest stretch you can ever do while you're sitting at a red light. Okay, so you have no excuse to tell me that you can't do this stretch. Or if you have a desk job or anything that we just talked about, we can definitely sit there and do the chicken stretch. And you're gonna hear me say that in your mind when you're thinking about it. You'll be like, Dr. Krista said I need to do this. Great, so super easy, right? We can do that. Next is the single arm doorway stretch. You can also do double arm if you would really like to. But ideally, again, you're at a 90-degree angle and you're going to just slightly press into the door so that you can feel that stretch in your pecs. Because again, those are really tight. So we want to be able to stretch those so that they loosen up, okay? Again, you can come into both if you need to and do it at the same time. But this isn't one like where we're doing reps. We're just holding here and feeling that stretch and then go ahead and relax, okay? So everybody try to find a doorway or something along the wall. At least, even if you can't find a space, go ahead and just put your arm out so that you get that sensation or feeling. Until you start to feel that, ideally, you can, there's no limit to it. Per se. But really, you should do any type of stretch. The longer you do it, the more you're actually getting into the connective tissue. Because a lot of times, like, you know, when you do sports, they're like, okay, hold for 30 seconds on one side and switch to the other. That's not getting into anything. So really anywhere from like a minute to 5 minutes is really what's going to actually start to strengthen and stretch that area. That goes with really any stretch.
It's big in swimming too.
Yep.
Huge.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Great.
So you're all
So the biggest thing too is that if you are doing one versus both, do them equally on both sides. So don't be like, oh, I only have 30 seconds left, but I did a minute on this side. That's not gonna work, because then you're gonna be lopsided, right? Good, good. Okay, great. So then the next ones are all on the floor. So we have floor angels, which technically can also be done on the wall. You might have heard of wall angels before. The important thing about this, trying to make sure that I can be seen in this video, is that you're ideally coming from this 90-90 and bringing your arms as close to the ability to touch as possible without really letting your shoulders and elbows come off the ground or the wall, okay? So the goal is to be able to touch your fingers, but if you can't touch your fingers without this staying back, then you only go until that point. And then you come back down and come back up and come back down. Again, that's gonna stretch and strengthen the areas right here. that we talked about. Makes sense? All right, find your spot on the ground. Let me see it.
Mat blankets if you need anybody.
No. A blanket or mat?
Yes, ma'am.
Blanket or mat?
Blanket.
Oh, sorry.
If you can keep your shoulder blades on the ground, then touch, but if not.
Just until as far as you can get.
And that's very, like, when I used to do the flamenco, you have a tendency, because you're up like this, to scrunch, and the
So by
instructor
keeping
would
that-
always be like, drop the shoulders, drop the
Exactly.
shoulders.
So by pressing those up against either a wall or the floor, you can tell when you're doing that. Because if it comes off, then you're naturally gonna have your shoulders up by your ears, and that defeats the entire purpose of opening up that chest. Okay. Good, great.
Dr. Chris, are you supposed to keep your elbows like down?
Ideally, yes. Yes. Ideally, everything should be down on the ground as flat as possible. Good. So then the other one that's down there, thoracic foam rolling. So I'm gonna do a slight modification to this one while you're there and show you. Has anybody heard of fish pose before?
I have an
In yoga?
outlet. Kelly. I
Yeah.
have an outlet.
Couple
I just
people.
need to turn it.
Cool. So same type of position, but you're gonna put either a foam roller, a block, a rolled up blanket, a rolled up towel, whatever you can get between your shoulder blades like this. And then open your arms up to the side while you're lying flat on the ground. Your legs can be straight, they can be bent like you guys have them now. Whatever is comfortable for you. It could be in a butterfly position, whatever's easiest. This is really that chest opening that's happening. You can also do it on the corner of your bed. So like put your corner of your bed in between your shoulders, drop your arms off the sides. Okay, that's usually on the bottom of your bed rather than the top of your bed. If you have like a headboard or something, obviously that's not gonna work. But I'll show you what this looks like. You guys can all sit up in this kind of look, since you'll have to get your own version of a prop at home. But the goal is to have your chest higher than your head so that this opens up. Questions? Make sense? Great. As far as foam rolling goes, I never want you to foam roll across your spine. That's my biggest stipulation when I do foam rolling, and I do a whole class on foam rolling as well. But my biggest stipulation is if you're gonna foam roll your spine, do not go across the spine. So either roll on one side and then the other, or get a smaller type of foam roller or a ball or something that allows you to do one side and then the other. Makes sense.
So you don't suggest doing like if you foam roll the top there and on your spine, not to do that.
That frame, you put it up on the side on one side.
So this is a block. A foam roller would be like this. So what's commonly misunderstood, like what this guy is doing, if he is just holding this pose and using this like this block, that's fine. But foam rolling itself is when you go back and forth. So if you were to go like this and start moving back and forth, that's a big no in my mind from a chiropractic standpoint, okay? A lot of times you'll hear popping and cracks when that happens. That's not the goal either. So we are not trying to foam roll this way in order to get the muscles, but without the spine. That's where you do one side and then go to the other side. They also, which I learned in our last foam rolling class, thanks to one of our patients, they do make a foam roller that has a divot for your spine. So if you do find that it's common that you need to foam roll your spine and it's awkward to do one side and then the other, that would be what I would look into, is to find a foam roller that has that cutout for your spine. Makes sense? Cool. And then did you have a question?
I did, because I know they made like recently they've been making like back rollers that are like plastic and they have a little bit and then they have a divot in the spine and they like promote like rolling your back on it, like on your spine. I know I'm not too different, so what's the difference for that with the foam roller is, but is that okay or is that not? Because it's like skinnier, but it's not going like all over. It's like supposed to be like skinny to go across.
I
But
think I'd have to see what you're talking about.
Okay.
before I can give you my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm not
I
entirely
can look it
sure.
up.
But yeah,
It's like one of it's like a plastic. I don't know. I'll show you a photo.
I think I might know what you're talking about because I think I might actually have one. But I
Okay.
don't think it's necessarily, at least the one that I'm talking about isn't rolling. It's more just like creating that arch that's
Yeah.
happening there and opening things up, which is more of a stretch.
Yeah.
So that would be okay because it's kind of more like this versus the rolling across the spine like this.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Other one is the prone platform Superman. So where we are lying on our stomachs. And again, we're like 90-90 and we lift up like this. With those, I don't want you to look around. So the biggest thing with that is that you're forward and you're not straining your neck by looking side to side. That's really the case in any situation that you're doing a stretch, whether you're on your stomach or on your back. You shouldn't be doing any sort of stretch where then you start to look from side to side because that's creating tension in your neck that's not wanted. Make sense?
Yes.
So if you'd like to try that stretch, you can.
You gotta say it when you're doing it.
Cool. Perfect. All right, great. So if we have an upper cross syndrome, how many want to bet that we have a lower cross syndrome? Yes, well, we do. So same type of mechanism as far as weak on two areas and tight on others. Weak abdominals, which isn't hard to come by. That's where, if you remember in your muscle tension stand that we do, if you ever see a yellow bar, that's a weakened signal, okay? That can be weakened core from the stomach, but it can also be weakened core from the back, which also aligns with the weak glutes, okay? So when we have weakened areas, that leads us to be more susceptible to injury. So that's where we're weak and tight in those hip flexors. Everybody knows about tight hip flexors, right? We can feel those, pretty much everybody. And then tight erector spinae, which are the muscles that run right along your back, okay? What happens here is this butt out, stomach out type of situation, okay? Where we're exaggerating this curve that's happening and we're causing a lot of tension and pinching into that back, okay? What do you think causes things like this?
Stripper shoes.
High heels are this one, yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So pregnancy is a myth. That shouldn't actually cause you to have this posture. You should, if you have these natural curves, still be able to bear all of the weight that you load onto it, including pregnancy. Okay, so you should still be able to be right along that green line in your posture picture, even if you're pregnant. Okay, this is a common misconception. Now we all know. But that is something that people just use like as something that are like, oh yeah, that just naturally happens. But that's why a lot of pregnant moms have low back.
When I started yoga teacher training, we called it duck butt. And I had duck butt, but I don't have duck butt anymore. Just from bringing my, hip points to my lower rib points, like thinking about how I'm standing, drawing my tailbone.
That's the biggest
just
thing that I
over
was just gonna
time.
say. Even when you're standing, if you can think about tuck your tailbone, that naturally is going to reposition that whole pelvis area. Okay, so people just think like, oh, I'm just like in this natural position. honestly, I was at the beach at festival this weekend and I saw this girl, no joke, probably like, I don't even know how old she might have been, 18, something like that. I couldn't even mimic her posture. Unfortunately, I judge people's postures all the time. It's just like something that you see and you can't help but be like, oh my God, you need a chiropractor. But I couldn't, like, I was like, that just hurts me. Like, literally, she just like looked angry. I'm like, and that's not attractive. I don't know. I'm like, it was just, it hurts me to try to even mimic it. So those are things that like we need to protect, and people need to be aware that that's not normal, right? Because people just think like, oh, that's just my posture. That's just how it was. That's just genetics. But great. Another common thing that causes this, sitting. If you sit for too long, it's not good. They say that sitting is the new smoking. I actually agree with that. So you should not sit for long periods of time. We also shouldn't stand for super long periods of time either. It's about a balance, just like anything in life, right? Great. So we've spent a lot of time on things, so I'm just going to run through these and show you how to do them without making you do them. So you're welcome. If you have questions about them, I'll answer them though. One of the biggest ones that I always recommend, especially if you ever have weakened signals in your exam, bridge. Okay, so feet flat on the ground, hips down, and then you lift them up towards the ceiling. Again, this is one where you should not look from side to side while you're doing this. Look straight up towards the ceiling. Okay, so that can be one that you do dynamically or statically. So you can lift up and then come back down, lift up and come back down, or you can lift up and hold. Okay, so those are all going to be able to do different things, but also have a same effect on those areas that we're trying to work on. Adductor squeeze. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a ball between his knees. So that one is where we're activating those adductors. So you can use anything. It doesn't have to be a ball. So basically you're going to hold it and squeeze it together and then relax. Squeeze and relax. Ideally, you don't want, anytime you're flat on the ground, you don't want this huge arch that's happening. You want to press your spine into the ground. I don't know if you can see that with my shirt, but ideally you want your spine flat on the ground. Okay, so that's also engaging that core by actively pressing it into the ground. Okay. Planks, everybody hates those. That's another one that I always recommend with bridges. If you're never going to do anything more than that, bridges and planks are actually super beneficial for this problem. You can modify it however you need to. So you can start up against a wall, start on your forearms, you can start on your hands, you can start on your knees. So anything from this, but what we're looking for is for this nice flat back. We don't want to see this or this, okay? Bird dogs, again, it should be a flat line all the way from your hand to your toe, okay? So foot out, arm out, right up against your ear. Your shoulder should be stacked with your wrist, hip should be stacked with your knee, and you do it on the opposite side. Okay, great. And then other one is the hip flexors. So again, those tight ones, these are popping on the ground. So here, you start in this like neutral position, and then you shift your weight forward. Feel this and tuck this, because that, again, with tucking that tailbone is where you're going to feel it totally different down through that quad and hip. Okay. Wonderful. Questions about any of those stretches? No? Great. So there's also this video on our homepage. Ignore my face. During COVID, actually, I created a ton of short little yoga videos that are on our Facebook page. So you can easily find these, but it was things for yoga for posture, yoga for headaches, yoga for all sorts of different things. So you can play around on our Facebook page and try to find those, or if you're specifically interested in this one, I can send you this link because it goes through a little bit more than what we just went through as well, of things that you can do at home. So we went through a lot today, and I know that obviously you didn't do all of them, and even like the ones that we did do, again, you would hold them for longer. But ideally, when you do them, I want you to at least start with one. That's what I ask you tonight from our workshops, is that you take one thing away. And since it is an interactive workshop where we actually did a stretch, I want you to at least implement one of those stretches, and it should be daily. Okay, so daily stretches. If you miss a day here or there, don't be like, oh, well, I'm just doomed. I can't do it ever again. So yes, we fall off the bandwagon sometimes, but we can get back on and do the right things for our body and support it in the right way that's meant to. It is important to know that we always have a favorite and we also have a least favorite. The one that is your least favorite is oftentimes the one you need the most. So just to keep that in mind, I'm not going to force you to do the one that you want to do the least, but it is oftentimes the one that your body actually needs. Okay. Anybody have any questions about anything that we went over or anything that they were wanting to learn that they didn't? We're good. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for coming and interacting. We'll see you at your next appointments. And your next re-exam should all have better posture.